Hello, everyone. Welcome to yet another episode from the space Legal Connect. Welcome to this space. Welcome to a brand new episode. Today's date is the 30th of May, 2023. Just over 24 hours following the inauguration ceremony of our new president. That is President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Congratulations to him. Let me just put this out there. He was not my first choice of candidate, or neither my second or third choice. But however, I am a patriotic Nigerian and I respect the mantle and the office he's holding, that is the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, pending the determination of the appeal of the election tribunal. However, that doesn't mean that we will not call out every actions of the office of the president, or even the current crops of senators and legislators that have just assumed office. I think this is the 10th assembly, and we are going to hold them accountable for every actions that they present to us Nigerians. Where do we start from? Before we dive into today's episode, I just want to encourage my listeners and viewers that you should hit that subscribe button. Just touch that subscribe button and be part of this space so that you get notification of new materials being posted on this space, and also to join in every debate that we engage on. To leave your comments, and whatever the comment is, we will respond to them and have an informed and reasonable debate amongst ourselves. Hit that subscribe button, and I look forward to you joining this space. On today's episode, we are just going to look at the happenings of yesterday, and also to look at, most especially look at the inaugural speech presented by the new president, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and also to analyze the content of his speech. And then, before then, we will look at what we've been left with as a result of the legacy from the former President Muhammadu Buhari. I saw him yesterday, jumping onto the Nigerian flagship flight to, I think he traveled to Castina. Well, we'll look at the legacy he's left with us, and then we look at the way forward by looking at what the current president has presented to us as a nation. So first of all, let's look at what we will remember President Muhammadu Buhari, or former President Muhammadu Buhari, for. The focus on today's space is the debt that he left us with, what we will remember him for, how he took us from a prosperous country into a debt-stricken nation. So first of all, in 2015, the Nigerian external debt was 7.35 billion, and domestic debt was 8.84 trillion, and the FX rate of the nation was 197. Then in 2016, our external debt moved on to 7.84 billion. Domestic debt moved on to 11.06 trillion, and our FX rate jumped up to 253.5. Then in 2017, our external debt climbed to 14.8 billion. That is almost doubled, if not more than double, the debt we had in 2017. Then domestic debt was 12.59 trillion. FX rate was 305.8. In 2018, our external debt moved to 21.04 billion. That is, in 3 years, our external debt tripled. Domestic debt was at 12.77 trillion naira. FS rating went to 307. In 2019, when our former president Muhammadu Buhari contested to return into office for another 4 years, our external debt was $23.11 billion, whereas our domestic debt was 14.27 trillion naira, and our FX rate went up to 326. Then in 2020, external debt rose to $28.57 billion, and domestic debt went up to 16.02 trillion naira, and FX rate rose to 381. So looking at these debt status, the status that Muhammadu Buhari took us from 2015 from just over 7 billion, or 7.5 billion, just under 7.5 billion. After 5 years, it went times 5. So every year, he was adding about $7 billion to our debt every year. And then you compare the life of Nigerians, the quality of life of Nigerians back in 2015 to what it is today, and you say that he's done his best, that the lives of Nigerians has improved. I'll leave you, my viewers, to leave your comments, and I want you to decide whether it is an improved Nigerian that is left us with, or deprived Nigeria. I'll leave that to my listeners and viewers to comment on. So let's go on to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's presidential first speech. I'm not going to go through it line by line. However, I'm going to tease out those important aspects of the speech that I think needs an in-depth analysis. The first part of his speech, he thanked everyone for the mandate that has been given unto him, given the fact that he only won the election by 37% of the vote casted, which means the other parties put together scores or just 63%. And further down the speech, he said, "For me, there is but one answer. We are too great a nation and too grounded as a people to rob ourselves of our finest destiny. This nation's journey has been shaped by the prayers of millions and the collective sacrifice of us all." I wouldn't want to go into the religious part of this statement because I have my reservation when it comes to religion, and I try to avoid getting into the religious debate. However, I don't think that it is. A lot of people do say that if not for the prayers of this country, where would Nigeria have been today? I don't subscribe to such nonsense, in the sense that countries that praise less than us are flourishing, and we are believing that if not for the prayers of this country, the people in this country, Nigeria would have been extinct. So I don't want to go into religion, so I'm going to avoid going off full force into the religious part of what he said. But I don't agree with what he said. And also the fact that he said it was a collective sacrifice of us all. The fact is that a lot of people died for him to become the president today, either before, during the election, or even after the election. History will continue to judge the former president and also the current governor of Central Bank for what they took Nigerians through before the election, for the hardship that they brought onto the Nigerian that Nigeria is still yet to recover from. However, let us carry on. To the surprise of many, but not to us ourselves, we have more firmly established this land as a democracy in both words and deed. Is Nigeria currently a democratic state? I know we have a democratic government, perceived democratic government, because the last 8 years, it doesn't seem that we're under democracy. A country where the rule of law does not even have a percentage stand cannot declare itself a democratic society or democratic nation. A society where it is one rule for some people and another rule for the others. A society where the legislators make laws to use the citizens as guinea pigs for their own survival. I'm talking about the harvesting of organs of innocent Nigerians, because that is what the law permits, that those that can afford it can harvest the organs of those that cannot afford it. Is that a democratic society where the rich are the only ones that will be protected by the Nigerian police? Is that a democratic society where the less privileged are subject to hoodlums and kidnappers, whereas the rich gang themselves up with public funded police officers? Does that symbolize its democracy? He mentioned the peaceful transition from one government to another is now our political tradition. I don't agree to that, because it is not a peaceful transition. Before, as I've just mentioned, before the election, a lot of people died as a result of the hardship. And after the election, a lot of people suffered. Some of them, they got their property demolished because of the political views that they had. So it's not a peaceful transition. The fact that APC hand over to another APC government does not mean that the nation has had a peaceful transition. He went on to say, permit me to say a few words to my predecessor, President Muhammadu Buhari. Mr. President, you have been an honest, patriotic leader who has done his best for the nation you love. On a more personal note, you are a worthy partner and friend. May history be kind to you. I don't agree with the characterization of the former president as an honest, patriotic leader. A leader, first duty is to serve. The former president did not serve Nigerians. Rather, he served himself and his entourage, or people that are within his political space, in the sense that Nigerians suffered in the last 8 years, taking into consideration the amount of debt that Nigerians have been subjected to, from 7 something billion dollars to 28 something billion dollars. Is not a feat. It's not something that Nigerians should be proud of, because we are going to be paying this debt for centuries to come. Our children's children will be indebted Then our administration shall govern on your behalf, but never rule over you. I'm quite impressed him saying this. We shall consult and dialogue, but never dictate. We shall reach out to all, but never put down a single person for holding views contrary to ours. Thank you very much, Mr. President, because you've given us on this space the ability to voice our opinion, even though it is contrary to your idea. Thank you very much, Mr. President, for acknowledging that people can have a different view to yourself. And I quite commend you for this statement that your administration shall govern but not rule over we Nigerians, and that you shall consult and dialogue. I hope you hold on to this statement that you've made, that you change the mentality of all government agencies, the police, the court, the legislators, the judiciary. I expect you to trickle down these statements that they should govern and not dictate. They should govern and not rule over us, because sovereignty, as you said, belongs to us, we the people of Nigeria, and we gave it to you in order for you to govern us, not to rule us. So I quite commend you for making the statement that your desire or what you intend to do is to govern and not rule. We are here to further mend and heal this nation, not tear and injure it. In this vein, may I offer a few comments regarding the election that brought us to this junction. I'll rather not talk about the election and allow the tribunal to decide what the outcome is. If it is true that you won the mandate fair and square, we will all support you to achieve what we Nigerians want. At the end of the day, we want somebody that is better off than the previous administration. However, I still have my reserve. The jury is out on you, President, because for me, in my opinion, I don't believe you are ready to take us to where we Nigerians want to go. Permit me, with due respect, to say that if it was Tinubu of 20 years ago, I would wholeheartedly support you. But however, 20 years down the line, I don't think you are ready for the task ahead. The outcome of the election reflects the will of the people. However, my victory does not render me any more Nigerian than my opponent, nor does it render them any less patriotic. I don't think that the outcome of the election reflects the will of the people, because you only got 37% of the vote cast, whereas 63% of the vote went to the other parties put together. So I wouldn't say that it reflects the will of the people, because majority of the people did not want you, but because of the system that we operate, it means that you won the election. But that means that Nigerians wanted you. Our mission is to improve our way of life in a manner that nurtures our humanity, encourage compassion towards one another, and duly rewards our collective effort to resolve the social ills that seek to divide us. Our constitution and laws gives us a nation on paper. We must work harder at bringing these norms, documents to life by strengthening the bonds of economic collaboration, social cohesion, and cultural understanding. Let us develop a shared sense of fairness and equity. For me, in order for our way of life to improve, it means that the government has to do more in order to give to the people a good quality of life. Look at the amount of money that the previous administration borrowed, and look at the state of Nigeria today. So, for a start, I will encourage this administration to relieve the central governor his duty. If President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is serious, then he needs to sack the current governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, because he's not serving the purpose of Nigerians. He's not serving the people of Nigeria. Rather, he's serving himself and those around him. Because if not for him, I don't think Nigeria would have gone through the hardship that he went through. And also, the police needs massive reform. The president should, through the Senate, should stop the purchase of the police protection that are meant for everyone rather than for the rich. The principle that will guide our administration are simply: Nigeria will be impartially governed according to the Constitution and the rule of law. Amen. Thank you very much, Mr. President. I hope this is not just it is worth more than the piece of paper that is written on. That Nigeria will be impartially governed according to the Constitution and the rule of law. And the first thing is to weed off all those people that truncate the rule of law, that don't obey the Constitution. Get rid of the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria. Get rid of the Inspector General of Police. Get rid of all the current ministers that served under the former president, and bring in fresh, idealistic Nigerians that can implement this simple and logical provision that the Nigerian will be impartially governed according to the Constitution and the rule of law. We shall defend the nation from terror and all forms of criminality that threatens the peace and stability of our country and our sub-region. The first criminality that threatens or destabilizing Nigerian is the Central Bank of Nigeria, in association with all the banks in Nigeria, in regards to their banking charges that are crippling Nigerians of their hard-earned money. I beg you, Mr. President, to look into the bank charges brought in by the governor of Central Bank of Nigeria and also the other banks that are in conjunction with them. We don't know what these monies are being used for. You get money transferred into your account, you pay a charge. You transfer money out of your account, you pay a charge. Not anything that you do within your account, you pay in charges. We shall remodel our economy to bring about growth and development through job creation, food security, and an end of extreme poverty. This is good, but I believe it is overambitious, because a lot of things tied into this notion of economy, remodel of economy to provide growth, development through job creation, food scarcity, food security, and an end to extreme poverty. How are people subjected into poverty? The reason is that there are lack of good education. Last year, ASU spent how many months being on strike? I cannot count a year. I cannot pinpoint in the last 30 years. I cannot pinpoint a year that ASU did not go on strike, or a space of 5 years that ASU did not go on strike. People go into universities to study 3 years course or 5 years course. They ended up spending close to 9-10 years studying the same course. What are they going to use that certificate for after 9 years? And in some instances, they cannot even defend it because they've forgotten all what have been taught prior before graduation. Does it make sense? Is it reasonable for someone to go into an institution to spend just 3 years and he ended up spending 9-8 years in that institution? In our administration, women and youth will feature prominently. I hope the definition of youth as age specific, because youth, in my understanding, is over 18 and less than 25. I don't expect a 30-year-old man to be saying that he's a youth. I don't expect a 40-year-old person to be saying that they are youth. Rather, the definition of youth should be made clear and simple. Our government will continue to take proactive steps such as championing a credit culture to discourage corruption while strengthening the effectiveness and efficiency of various anti-corruption agencies. If they are able to implement this number 5, I will come on this space and eat an humble pie to say that a big apology to Mr. President if they are able to implement this paragraph 5 that he stated that our government will continue to take proactive steps such as championing a credit culture to discourage corruption while strengthening the effectiveness and efficiency of various anti-corruption agencies. This policy needs to be obvious to we the common Nigerians, we the ordinary Nigerians, to see that the efforts have been made to discourage corruption and engagement with the public as to what the government is doing in order to stop that. I'm not a believer of immunity on all these governors and even the office of the president. I'm not a fan of having immunity. I think that immunity should be removed in order for these people to face the music while in office rather than after they've left office. And there we go to security. Security shall be the top priority of our administration because neither prosperity nor justice can prevail amidst insecurity and violence. I do agree with you, Mr. President. Security should be addressed and security should be part of your priority. And in order to be able to achieve security, I think that every government agency, including the police, should not be serving specific individuals in the society. I think that buying police security should be a thing of the past, and the security details for a lot of public servants should be reduced drastically and orders removed. In my opinion, they should not have police detailed security. Rather, they should, from their own pocket, pay for private security. It talked about growing the economy. I think that it is ambitious. Not until I see the detailed plan, I won't hold my breath that they will achieve a higher GDP growth. However, the jury is out on that. I will see how he attracts investors. I know that he talked about creating 1 million jobs. I don't know how that is going to be possible. He said that through digital businesses or digital employment. Not until we actually see the details of these. I don't know how that will be possible given the current terrain that we are in. Even they talked about agriculture. How do you achieve that when everyone is desisting from farming, and those that are farming, they can't even harvest their crops because they've been destroyed by hoodlums or animals? Well, we'll see how that is progressed. Infrastructure, he mentioned. I don't know what infrastructures the former president or former administration has built that he wants to continue to build. Rather, he's just going to start from the scratch. That is my opinion. Then the big elephant in the room, fuel subsidy. He talked about the fact that fuel subsidy was not part of the budget that was handed down to him. And he said fuel subsidy is gone. I don't know what it means by fuel subsidy is gone, not until they show to us the detailed analysis of how things were during fuel subsidy tenure and what it is now like and what we expect to see going forward. I need a detailed explanation, a detailed policy covering these area of fuel subsidy. Just saying that fuel subsidy is gone doesn't actually justify this position. In order for the central bank to be more effective, I think, in my opinion, that the current governor of central bank should be sacked. He should be relieved of his job because he has done terrible things, including before the election by recoloring the naira and starving Nigerians to death for those policies. So based on that, I think he should be sacked from his current position. Foreign policy, he mentioned that part of the foreign policy is that we should be projecting ourselves as beggars, which is what the former administration of President Muhammad Buhari subjected us to, externally projecting us as a poverty-stricken nation that we are suffering. However, there are a lot of more prosperous Nigerians in this country than the countries that we borrow money from. It's just that the government, the past administration, has misplaced its priority, and so borrow to pay services. And then, in conclusion, he mentioned, on this day, Nigeria affirms its rightful place among the world's greatest democracies. I don't agree with that. Nigeria is not a democratic country at the moment. We might have a civilian government, but that doesn't mean that we are democracy. Go and look at the definition of democracy. Democracy is government of the people, by the people, and for the people. The last 8 years, it hasn't been a government for the people, and it hasn't definitely be a government by the people. So the jury still act regarding the promises that the new president has made. And I have said here that if I've proven to be wrong, I will gladly eat an humble pie and come here and praise and apologize to the current administration. However, I'm not expecting much from them, given what I've said in the previous episodes. However, we will support and continue to, build this nation so that the people that have left in droves since the inception of the former administration will have the motivation to come back home for us to build this nation to what we want it to be. But first of all, the federal government, that is President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, must provide the platform for small businesses and private businesses to thrive in this country. So I hope you've enjoyed the analysis. Hopefully, next time we'll come and bring an in-depth information about how this government is progressing. We hope that we'll have something positive because we are looking at the bright side. It is what it is now. The president is in the person of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. We must all look to support him, even though we don't agree with him personally, but we should respect the office of the president and support him. I hope you've had a good time listening to today's podcast on this space. Hit the subscribe button, as I have said earlier on, and join in the debate. Leave your comments. There are a few queries that I've thrown to the public to comment on, and I look forward to receiving your comments, and I'll see you next time. Have a nice one, and goodbye now. Take care.